Morning students, today we are going to do this poem Dover Beach. The theme of this poem Dover Beach is very similar to the one which we did in the past, that is the Darkling Crash. I already told you that Charles Darwin wrote Origin of Species in the year 1859, right? And then what happened? What was the consequence of the Origin of Species written by Charles Darwin? Can anyone tell me? I explained this when we were doing the Darkling Thrush. No. See, in the Origin of a Species, Charles Darwin wrote that all the species which are present on this planet, Earth, right? They were not created by God. There is no role of God in the creation of all the creatures and the species upon this earth. They were just uh, created through a process of natural selection, right? This is what Darwin wrote in his book Origin of the Species. And now what happened earlier, before this book came, before this Darwinian theory was known to the people they believed what was told by the church. What was told by the church, that we have been created by God and we'll be punished for our sins. So the people, they were worried, right? They took care of performing good deeds, not being selfish, right? All the moral values were taught to us. Religion taught us all the moral values, right? We need to be compassionate towards our neighbor. We need to love our neighbor, and we need to love people. We need to be kind to people, generosity, morality, all these things they were told to the people. But when what happened when this book came, then people like they thought that when we have not been created by God, why to fear God? That fear of God was eliminated from the minds of people. Then what is the use of religion and what is the use of God and what is the use of faith in religious values, right? So as a result of this, there was a lot of chaos, right? There were two schools of thought. One, religious, right? There were a group of people who believed in religion, who believed in church, who believed in the teachings of all the religious leaders and all the religious books. And there was another school of thought who believed in the scientific theory, right? And neglected this religious things, religious teaching that we have been created by God and the existence of God. So the existence of God was questioned in that era, right? Then what happened? Another reason was the development of science and technology. But there was rapid advancement, rapid scientific advancement going on in that age. And as a result, there was economic prosperity, right? Economic prosperity, economic expansion, all these things, they were taking place, right? People were becoming richer, right? So then these things, they also led to questioning religion and the values of life, right? So there was crisis of faith, which was prevalent. That. So the two main things which happened were uh, Darwin's Origin of Species and rapid scientific development and advancement, right? Which led to all people reading, being educated, coming to know about what was happening around them, and then they started losing faith in anything which was not backed by logic and which cannot be proved. God became something which cannot be proved. So they started disbelieving in all these things. So that is the reason why the poet is in a sorrowful mood. Right? The poem has a pessimistic note. Right? That is the reason why the poet is like sad or distressed. Why? Because people have lost their faith in religion and God. And if you see, once you lose your faith in religion, once you come to realize that there is no God, what will happen? you will start disregarding all the moral values, right? Why do we believe in all these good things, doing goodness to others? Because we are scared. There is some amount of fear inside us that if we behave in an inappropriate manner with others, what will happen? The thing will come back to us. This is what all the religions of the world have been teaching us. You do good and good will come to you. You do bad and bad will come to you. One fine day you will be punished on the day of judgment for your sins. So when we came to know that there is no such thing going to happen, because God doesn't have any role in our creation. We were created through the process of natural selection. Then what will happen? Then there is nothing to fear. The humans, they became more and more selfish. They became cruel. And thanks to all the scientific advancement, the more you grow rich, the lesser human values you have. You become more and more greedy. The more wealth you acquire, the more you want to acquire. Right? So these were the major reasons which prompted Arnold to write the Dover Beach. Very similar to the Darkling Fashion. They can ask you to write a comparison on both the poems, Dover Beach and Darkling Fashion, because more or less they deal with the same theme. The poem Dover Beach, written in 1867, is a dramatic monologue. The poem is in the form of a dramatic monologue. What is a dramatic monologue? Who can tell me what is a dramatic monologue? Anyone?
Ma'am, monologue is when someone talks to himself or herself.
Yes, when only one person does the talking and the other person other person is present, but he doesn't speak anything. He's just the listener, right? So the entire poem is said by the poet, right? We come to know that there is a poet's beloved who is listening to all the things which he is speaking, because at one or two places he addresses. Right? So we come to know that there is someone who is listening. 32. The poet expresses his view that the despair, hopelessness, and frustration in the world. This is the theme of the poem. The poet expresses his view that the despair, hopelessness, and frustration in the world is due to the decline of religious faith. The poem is marked with an elegiac tone, means again sad, pessimistic, sorrowful tone runs throughout the poem. And presents an ephemeral human feeling of sadness. Ephemeral means
Transit.
it is very short-lived, right? It will not stay for long. Now, Dover Beach. Let's start with the point. Dover Beach. Dover Beach is a beach next to Dover Strait in England, right? Dover Strait is a water body in England. It's a strait in England, and Dover Beach is the beach next to that strait, right? Now, Dover Strait connects with the English Channel, right? The theme of the poem, it has already been told, that is faith, belief in God, and religion has been waning, has been disappearing, right? Has been reduced, right? So this is the basic theme of the poem. The sea is calm tonight. Yes.
What does ephemeral mean?
What does?
Ephemeral.
Ephemeral means something which is very volatile, which is very short-lived. It won't stay for a long period of time.
And elegiac.
And
Elegiac. That tone which is written.
in the tone of an elegy. What is an elegy? Elegy is a poem which is written on the death of something. So here the human faith, the faith in religion and God has died. It is no longer to be seen, right? And what will be the consequence of this loss of faith? Can anyone tell me what will be the consequence of this loss of faith? What will happen when humanity will lose faith in
Also,
God and
good
religious
values
values?
of life.
Please raise your hand. Yes, Insha.
Loss of good values of life.
See, if we have faith in God, what happens? Any unfortunate event or anything, if anything goes wrong in our lives, what do? We blame God for it. It was God's will. And this gives us solace. Yes or no? This gives us some kind of peace, some kind of satisfaction that we were helpless, we couldn't do anything. It was God's will. God wanted it to happen this way. God has his own ways. We had someone to blame for everything, and that was God. But when we, one fine day, when we realize that there is no God, we have not been created by God. It was through some process, that is natural selection, that we came onto this planet. Then what will happen? There'll be a lot of chaos, there'll be a lot of confusion. Right? Humans will start feeling like orphans. Right? We believe that God is like a parent to us. He's there to take care of us. He's there to punish us for our sins if anything goes wrong. Right? If we don't behave properly, we'll be punished. Right? Like, so what will happen to us? There'll be a lot of confusion, there'll be a lot of chaos in our minds, and then it will lead to distress, sorrow, people being skeptical about everything, being cynical, a man not trusting another man, a man becoming so greedy. Not being compassionate towards humanity and other creatures. This is what is going to happen. Because one, if you will realize that there is nothing called as sin, right? Then these things will happen. So these are the things, these were the things rather which were happening at that time. People were becoming greedy, selfish. Human values were losing their importance. So then these were the things which puzzled these two great poets, that is Matthew Arnold and Hardy. Right? Hardy wrote The Dappling Thrush, Arnold wrote Dover Beach. Right? Hardy, in the last stanza, he said that there is hope in the song of the thrush, the darkling thrush, the thrush which was singing, right? She was talking about some hope, which the poet is unaware, but she knew. Hope in the coming time, hope in the upcoming century, right? And in this Matthew Arnold, in the last stanza, he says that only love can save us. Right? Love and truth are the two things which can save us from this disaster, from this catastrophe, imminent catastrophe, which is about to happen if we don't change our ways. Right? The sea is calm tonight, the tide is full, the moon lies fair. The sea is calm tonight. The sea is calm tonight means we know that it's time of night, it's darkness, and so the sea is calm. The sea is also pacified. There are no high waves rising. The tide is full. The moon lies fair. So the moon is shining brightly, right? The tide is also full. Now see, the poet has said about two things. The tide is full and the sea is calm. There is an antithesis in it. The sea is calm and the tide is full. This doesn't happen. Are you getting? When the tide is full, how can the sea be calm? Are you getting what I mean to say? So there is antithesis in this line, in these lines, right? And what does the poet want to show? What does the poet want to show? The oscillation between faith and confusion, faith and doubt, right? Now, because humanity got two feelings, sorry, two different thoughts. One was the scientific opinion, how human life came into existence on this planet, and the other was what was propagated by the church and all the religious books. So the normal common human being was confused between, he was standing somewhere in the middle between faith and doubt. Before all these things happened, before so much scientific development happened, what was the opinion of the people? People believed in God, people believed in whatever was taught by the church and the religious books, and they were happy. But when all these things happened, doubt was born in the minds of the people. So this, that sea being calm and the tide being full, these are two contradictory things. The moon lies fair, the moon is shining brightly upon the strait, means the moonlight has covered the entire strait. At Dover Strait, the moonlight has spread over the entire strait. On the French coast, the light gleams and is gone. So at the other end of the strait, what is there? France. One end of the strait is England. The other end of the strait is France. Right? These two countries, they are divided by the English Channel. France and England. Right? So these two countries are at the two ends of the strait. So the poet is standing on the beach and he can see the lights of the other end, that is France. So he says, upon the strait on the French coast, the light gleams and is gone. The light is shining because it is the night time. So obviously the light must be shining. The light gleams and is gone. So the light shines for some time and then it disappears. The cliffs of England stand glimmering and fast. But what happens on this side? On the side of England, on the side where the poet is standing, the light continues to shine. The light is not flickering. Right? The moonlight continues to shine. The cliffs of England stand, and it has covered the cliffs of England. Cliffs, that huge rocks with sharp edges, right? So they continue to shine out in the tranquility. Now see, he has also compared England and France. England, the cliffs of England, they are constantly reflecting the moonlight. But on the French coast, what is the case? On the French coast, the light shines for some time and then it is gone. Means it is not steady. Means it is talking, he is referring to the faith of the people in France, that is the French people and the English people. Right? England was a replica of a stability. Whereas he is trying to say that France symbolizes socio-economic confusion and all these things. There was no stability in France. This is what the poet is trying to say through this symbol of light, moonlight. Right? So the light in the French, towards the French coast, it's not stable, gleams for some time, and then it is gone. But because England has a stability, the people of England, they have faith in God and religion. So the light symbolizes faith. Right? So it goes on shining out in the tranquil way. Tranquil way means in the calm way. Right? Calm, serene way. Come to the window. Now see, from this line we come to know that the poet is referring to his beloved. Right? There is someone else along with the poet. He says, come to the window, sweet is the night air. Right? So you come to the window, whosoever is with the poet. In the last stanza, he has referred to that person as the beloved. Right? So he says that, come, my dear, come to the window. Why? Because the night air is sweet. A pleasant breeze is blowing. Now see, in these lines, till here, what type of imagery has been used by the poet? Or these words, what does these words signify? The tide is full, light, gleams, glimmering.
Ma'am, visual
Ma'am,
imagery.
visual image.
Yes,
Visual image.
visual imagery, right? The poet is trying to create a picture in the minds of the reader. What is visual imagery? When the poet uses words or objects, or he describes objects which create an image in our mind, right? Through sight, right? Now you could imagine what type of atmosphere could have been there, right? These words, glimmering in vast, tranquil bay, and all these things. The sea is calm. So you can imagine through sight. You can imagine. So different visuals have been created by the poet to create an image. Different visuals have been used by the poet to create an image in the mind of the reader. So this is visual imagery in these lines, right? Right? Now, let us move ahead. Listen, you hear the grating room. Listen, you hear the grating room of pebbles. So the poet called his beloved, and then he says, "Come here and listen." Right? He's asking his beloved to listen to the sound which has been created by the grating road. Grating means harsh, that harsh sound of pebbles which the waves draw back and forth. The sound of the pebbles which have been drawn back by the waves when they retreat, when the waves they move back. Wait, just somebody wants to say something. Yes.
And you've skipped 4 lines.
Pardon? Acha, I
And
missed
you've
one line.
skipped 4 lines.
Okay, I missed one line. Only from the long line of the spray where the sea meets the moon blanch land. Okay. Come to the window, sorry. Come to the window, sweet is the night air. The poet called his beloved and he said, "Come to the window because the night air is sweet. Pleasant breeze of the night is blowing. So you please come to the window and stand next to me and enjoy it." Only from the long line of spray where the sea meets the moon blanch land. So, and then what happens? The long line of the spray. The long line of the spray means the place where the water and the land, that is the shore, is meeting. There is a long line of spray. Means the water is, the waves, they are touching the ground and sprinkling water. Because the waves, they come with a lot of force. Because it is the moon is shining brightly in the sky. Right? So that is what he says, that the long line of the spray. The line of the spray is the line which is formed by meeting of the water and the land, right? Where the sea meets the moon blanched land. Where the sea meets the moon blanched land means the land which is covered by moonlight. This land which is enveloped by the moonlight, and the sea meets that area of land. Listen, you hear the grating room. So, and further poet says that you come here and you listen. Listen to what? The grating road. The grating means the harsh sound which is produced of the pebbles which the waves draw back and fling. What do the waves do? The waves, Because of the force of the water, what happens? The small pebbles, they are drawn by the waves when they retreat. And when they come again to the shore, they fling, they throw those pebbles to the shore, right? Towards the land. So the sound is produced. A harsh sound is produced. So the poet is asking his beloved to listen to that grating sound which is produced by the pebbles which are flung towards the shore by the waves of the water. Where the scene this is done of pebbles which the waves draw back and fling. Draw back means take away when they move back, and then they fling at their return. When the waves they return, they fling, they throw those pebbles towards the shore. Up the high strand, begin and cease. So, and then what happens? High strand means towards the sandy shore, right? Towards the sandy shore, because the shores they have a lot of sand. So these pebbles they are flung towards the sandy shores by the waves. Begin and cease, and then again. And this is a regular phenomena which goes on. This is a regular process which is going on. It begins, then it stops, and then it again begins. Means this process of flinging the pebbles towards the shore is going on and on. Right? It is a continuous regular process with tremulous cadence and brings the eternal mood of sadness. Tremulous cadence. Cadence means a musical sound, right? Slow. So this is slow music. Because see, how is music produced? There is rhythm in it. Regular notes are played. So then only you will produce music. So he says because this is the regular process which is going on of flinging the pebbles towards the shore, then again taking them back along with them, and then again coming when the water comes back towards the shore, it again throws the pebbles towards the shore. So this is a continuous process, and because this is a continuous process, a music is produced, a trembling music is produced, and brings the internal note of sadness. And what is this music? The music which is produced through this process is not a pleasant one, it is a sad one. It brings the eternal note of sadness. Right? Eternal note means everlasting. The note of sadness. Why everlasting? Because this music will go on. As long as there is water in the sea, as long as there are pebbles, this music will go on and on and on. Right? It won't stop. Right? So in these lines, which imagery has been used? All these words, tremulous cadence,
Auditory imagery.
huh? Somebody
Auditory.
said something. I didn't hear you. Come again.
Auditory.
Auditory image. This grating road. Note of sadness. These are the words which talk about auditory imagery, right? And auditory. When the image is created in the minds of the reader using sound, that is auditory imagery. So the poet has used auditory imagery in these lines. Right? Any problem till here? Now, one more device has been used here. What is that device? In this tremulous cadence slow. If you look at this line, tremulous cadence slow. This is known as Miltonic inverse. Inversion has been used here by the poet. See, what happens normally? How do you write? How do you write normally? Normally you write an adjective before a noun, right? Normally an adjective is followed by a noun, but what has the poet done here? What is cadence? Cadence is a noun, slow is adjective. The adjective has been used after the noun. This is known as inversion, right? This was something which was done by Milton a lot, and so it is known as Miltonic inverse, right? So this is the device which has been used, right? Any problem in this stanza? I think we'll continue in the next.
Ma'am, can you please tell in brief what is the first stanza all about?
So, in the second stanza, the poet says, Sophocles long ago heard it on the Aegean Sea, and it brought into his mind the turbid ebb and flow of human misery. We find also in the sound a thought, hearing it by this distant northern sea. So he says, the poet says, Arnold says that long ago Sophocles. Now this is an allusion. What is an allusion? He has brought the reference of a Greek dramatist of the 15th century, right? So because he has brought a reference of the past, so it is an allusion. He is quoting the work a poet and a dramatist from the 15th century. So this is an allusion. So who was Sophocles? Sophocles was the Greek dramatist of the, not the 15th century, sorry, of the 5th century. I said 15th. Okay. So Sophocles long ago heard it on the Aegean. Aegean is the name of the sea, right? Aegean Sea is the sea between Greece and Asia Minor, right? So Arnold had used an allusion of Sophocles here, and he says that Sophocles, who was the Greek dramatist of the 5th century, he has long ago heard it on the Aegean Sea. So, like the poet is hearing this sound, that grating roar. I told you that in these lines, what has been used? Which image has been used in these lines?
Auditory.
Yes, auditory imagery has been used in these lines of the poem. So like the poet, like Arnold is listening to these grating roars, which are giving rise to sadness inside him. That sound, that roaring sound, which is produced by the water and the pebbles, by the water of the sea, by the water of the strait and the pebbles, that is bringing about sadness in the heart of the poet. And then now he goes back into the past and he talks about Sophocles, and he says that Sophocles long ago heard a similar sound when he was standing on the shores of the Aegean Sea, and it brought into his mind the turbid ebb and flow of human misery. And that sound had a similar effect in the mind of the Sophocles also. Turbid means muddy. Now your mind cannot be muddy, so here it means confused. Ebb and flow of human misery. Human misery means human suffering, human wretchedness, right? So then when he heard a similar sound standing on the shores of the Aegean Sea, his mind was also puzzled by the human suffering, right? All the confusing thoughts came into his mind regarding human suffering, human misery, human wretchedness. We find also in the sound a thought, hearing it by this distant purpose. And we also are feeling the same thing. The same thought also comes into our mind. This sound reminds us of the same confusion, distress in human in human life, about which Sophocles wrote long ago in the 5th century, right? So we are also hearing it on this distant northern sea. The only difference is that the place has changed, right? But the experience is the same. the feelings, the thoughts which were experienced by Sophocles on the Aegean Sea, and those thoughts made him sad. Made him sad, why? Because they made him realize about human misery and human suffering. So these thoughts standing on the Dover beach are making me also sad, because I also am able to understand. I'm also thinking about the human misery, right? Human misery, which will be the result of this confusion and chaos which is going on in the human mind. And I already discussed what was the confusion and the chaos. And that was, which was a result of loss of spiritual faith. The sea of faith. Now here the sea of faith symbolizes the faith in God and religion. Was once too at the full and round earth shore, lay like the folds of the bright girdle fur. But now I only hear. Which figure of speech has been used here? You can tell me. Can you tell me which figure of speech has been used in this line?
Simile.
Yes.
Some simile.
Yes, simile has been used. So the comparison is being done by using the word light. So it is a simile. The sea of faith. The sea of faith is a symbol of faith in God and religion. Right? So the sea of faith was once true at the full. So at one time in the past, once upon a time in the past, the sea of faith means this, the faith in God and the faith in religion was full. People had a lot of faith in God and religion, and round earth shore lay like the folds of the bright girdle. Now, what is a girdle? Girdle is a kind of an ornament which is worn by on your waist, right? And it encircles your waist. So this faith is compared to the girdle. Means this girdle of faith encircled the entire earth. Means all the people of this earth, all the people of this planet, they had complete faith on God and religion. Once upon a time, the faith was full on God and religion in the past. Before all these things happened, before all these scientific advancements and the Darwin's theory, all these things they came up. Before this, the faith was full, complete, like the girdle which makes a complete circle on the waist. So the girdle is compared to the faith, human faith in God. But now I only hear its melody. But now this is not the case. The poet says, but now the things have changed. Now the sea of faith is not full. But now, what's happening now? But now this faith, it has started retreating. It has started moving back. This religious faith has started declining. The world is suffering from a spiritual crisis. The world is suffering from spiritual doubts, confusions. And so this confusion, it has been depicted by these pebbles. But now I only hear its melancholy, long withdrawing roar. Withdrawing roar means the retreating roar, the sound produced by the retreating waves of the water. So this retreating wave is talking, this retreating roar is talking about the retreating faith, right? The faith which is moving back. Now the people's faith is shrinking. It is not full like it was in the past. So it's melancholy. And what's happening as a result of it? When people are losing their faith, obviously they will not be happy, because till now what was the case? They had somebody, they believed in somebody who was responsible for their happiness and sorrow. But now the things have changed. They don't have anyone to blame for their suffering. They don't have anyone to blame for their sorrow, or to give credit for their happiness, right? So it has resulted in melancholy. Melancholy means there is sadness because of this retreating faith, retreating to the breath of the night wind, down the vast edges, drear and naked shingles of the world. The naked shingles means it means that what happens when the water of the sea, it moves back, then the pebbles, they are left there. So now that cover of faith, now it is compared to the cover of faith. Now that cover of faith, that is spiritual faith, which covered the naked shingles, right? Which covered these small pebbles on the shore. Now, because the water of faith has moved back, what happened? These pebbles, they are lying naked, uncovered, right? Means now the humanity is facing the harsh realities of life. Now there is no God with them to protect them, to take care of them, right? Now, because they don't have any faith in God, so they are themselves responsible for all the harsh and the cruel realities of their life, right? And of the night wind down the vast edges drear. So the vast edges means drear means the dull, the gloomy edges of this landscape, right? They are, and the naked shingles of the world. So now the entire world, the entire humanity is lying like the naked shingles, which are devoid of any cover. Our love, let us be true. So he says that this is the situation of this world. Now the entire world has been left like an orphan, right? Who doesn't have any God to take care of them because they have lost their faith in God. Our love, let us be true. So now he's giving the solution in this stanza, that how can we save ourselves from this misery, from this suffering. In the last stanza, the poet talks about the solution. He says, our love, let us be true. So he's addressing his beloved that, my dear love, let us be true to one another. Let us be bring back that loyalty towards one another. Let us be faithful towards one another. For the world which seems to lie before us like a sand of dreams. For why? Because this, for like a land of dreams, the world which is in front of us, which is like a land of dreams, which appears to be very happy, which appears to be very pleasant, full, which appears to be full of all the good things. So various, so beautiful, so new, hath really neither joy, nor love, nor light, nor certitude, nor peace, nor help or pain. Which figure of speech has been used here? The figure of speech used in these lines is anaphora. Anaphora means the repetition of the same expression. So has been repeated here, nor, has been repeated, right? So it is anaphora. So he says the world which is lying in front of us, the world which is there in front of us, which appears to be like a land of dreams, right? Which appears to be very wonderful, which appears to be very grand, very magnificent. Let me tell you, my dear love, this is not the reality of this world. The world which appears to be so various means full of variety, which appears to be so beautiful, which appears to be full of beauty. So new, right? New because there are a lot of changes in this world now. So the new world which has come up hath really neither joy. The reality of the world is that there is no joy, no love, no light in this world. Though this world looks to be full of variety, very beautiful, very appealing, very tempting, but let me tell you, my dear love, this world doesn't have any joy, doesn't have any love. And when these human values, they are missing, obviously the world will not have any light. Nor certitude. Certitude means certainty, surety. Nor peace. See, when you will be devoid of all the good human feelings, your heart will not be at peace. Your heart and mind will not be at peace. Because all these things, greed and acquiring more and more, being selfish, being faithless, being cynical, these will not give you peace. So there is no peace nor help for pain. And people are so selfish in this world, which appears to be very appealing. People are not loyal to you. People will not come to you when you are in pain, when you are suffering. And this is what we are seeing in the present world. Right? Everyone is selfish. Everyone thinks about himself or herself. And we are here as on the darkling plane. And our situation is as if we are on the darkling plane, swept with confused alarms of a struggle and fight. Darkling plane means our situation is as if we are standing in a dark plane. We are standing in a dark piece of land, swept with confused alarms of a struggle and flight. What happens when you are standing at a dark place? You won't be able to see anything. So the poet says our situation is very similar to a person who is standing, or rather a soldier, because in the last line he says ignorant armies clash by night. So our situation is very similar to a soldier to this group of soldiers who are standing on a dark plain where they are not able to see anything. Nothing is visible to them and swept with confused alarm. And any sound which they hear, right? They are only hearing confused alarms means the sounds of danger. The sounds of dangers which are being heard by those soldiers, they are confusing them for struggle and flight. So they are trying to struggle without seeing the person with whom they have to struggle. They are struggling and running away in chaos. These lines, they talk about the confusion where ignorant armies clash by night. What will happen if the soldiers are standing in the dark and fighting? They won't know whom they are fighting. At times they would start fighting with their own men, right? Or the people who are in their sides. So what's happening? This is the reality. We are fighting like ignorant armies. Why ignorant armies? Because we are not able to see anything. The reality is not visible to us. So our situation is like the ignorant armies which is clashing by night, which is fighting by night during the night time. Right? So they are not able to see the reality. They are just fighting. They are just skeptical. They are just doubtful about the other person. Why? Because they are selfish. They are cynical. They have lost all faith in humanity and human values. So they are fighting each other in darkness. In darkness means lack of knowledge, lack of spiritual knowledge and spiritual awakening, because that has gone missing. So they are like the soldiers and two rivals which are fighting in the dark. They don't even know whom they are fighting. Right? With this, we come to the end of this class.